Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee Live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie.
All right. And now I'll pass it along to Stacy to introduce Jeff and David.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Sally. Yeah, and that video always gets me excited, I have to say. Like, it's really neat to see, a little bit about what the students get to do. I mean, we know about their work experience here at Tech, but to see what they get to do for fun as well is kind of neat. And it's something we talk about a lot. So you'll probably hear that sort of weave through the conversation here today. But yeah, I'm very excited to introduce both Jeff and David, both some really great professionals within the field and working within our technology space. So both have different viewpoints and different areas that they're working in. So I'm excited to pass it over to them to do an intro. So maybe I'll start with you, Jeff. If you could introduce yourself, a little bit about what your role is here, and sort of what brought you, I guess, to this point in your career at Tech.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Stacy. Yeah, I'm a supervisor of the mining systems here at Tech. And so that really, we support and manage a whole host of applications and product suites here in both the Coal Valley, or as you guys talked about, the Elk Valley, as well as in Kamloops, as well as in South America. And so my team looks after fleet management systems, grading systems. We look after safety systems that monitor high walls, basically to keep people safe at the end of the day. We manage mobile computer fleets that run on our heavy equipment that monitor asset health data, that allow the operators to interface with these fleet systems, as well as basically a host of other things. I think the other opportunities that we've had is we also do, within those systems, we do development. We have, in the last couple of years, gotten into some software development where we're actually developing some interfaces that interface into these larger systems, as well as provide some meaningful information back to either operators or dispatchers or other technology professionals or engineers within the business, so they can make good decisions at the end of the day.
Awesome. Great. All right. And David, I'll pass it over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is here at Tech?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Stacy. Hi, everyone. I'm David, and I'm the deployment specialist under race department, and mainly working for mining domain, or what we call load and haul analytics. So I just joined the team last summer, June 2022. So definitely new members here, still exploring all the new and fun stuff. But yeah, like I'm more acting as a bridge between the back office, technology and innovation department, and the on-site resources, and mainly work with my operation, supervision and leadership team, and really help them to really first familiarize what the tools that we're going to roll it out at site, and second, make sure they're all ready for those digital tools, and maybe let them know what kind of the change they need to do, what kind of the consideration they need to really think about before actually using the tool. And also, sometimes we need to get to some hands-on experience to actually go out to the field, actually testing the tools out. And also after that, to really make sure the tools itself is sustainable and make sure everyone is accountable for that tool in order to drive out the performance here. So yeah, that's kind of my high-level summary here.
That's awesome. Great. And I guess something that I often ask, and when you're talking to professionals in the technology space, so computer engineers, computer scientists, sometimes you go and they're like, oh, I work for a mining company. We're hiring lots of people in that space. And if they're not familiar with tech, sometimes it's a bit lost on them, going like, well, what am I going to do with a mining company? And so I guess maybe I'll start with you, David, and then I'll move over to Jeff, because I know you guys have both different perspectives. But as a newer hire to Tech, what sort of drew you to come on board with us and sort of pursue your career with a mining company?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess for myself, first I'm mining engineer background, so definitely
Mhm.
tech is on my list throughout my entire career when looking for a job. But I would say real the thing is the tech is such a diverse company that has a lot of options for various of students to choose from. And speaking about technology innovation at Tech, we do have the autonomous haulage system that operate
Mhm.
at different locations here. And um, a lot of people thinking mining is just about load and haul, shovel trucks, but it's something definitely outside of that as well. Like we do have processing plant, and we also have the maintenance shop need to make sure every gear is operating correctly, and also some of the IT infrastructure and some of the human resources department is also um, pretty pretty advanced to really help the people to drive out the performance here. And I would say those flexibility and those virus of choice really make me to think Tag is the top company to choose for.
Oh, cool. That's great. That's great to hear. We're getting the good word out there somewhere. So that's
Yep.
awesome. And then I guess for you then, Jeff, when you're attracting new people to the company and you're looking at building your team, like what for you makes it sort of fun to come to work every day? What makes this appealing for you in a day-to-day job?
Yeah, I think for me, really, as we've been hiring people for the last few years, it's really the diverse sort of suite of things that we get to do here,
Yeah.
especially within my team. Uh, Obviously, we do a lot of sustainment of systems, but it's the development side that's really gotten me going in the last couple of years. And we've been developing out a number of products that I've had both co-ops, full times. We have some dedicated
Mm.
uh, software development leads within the group that are helping do code review and all those kind of things with them with new co-ops. So it gives them experience in actual coding, and they can see those results at the end of the day on live equipment, which is a
Yeah.
very interesting thing to see. And we actually get them out there on the heavy equipment so that they can actually talk to these operators. With some of the other software too that we manage, it's more of a collision avoidance system, and we get them out there with them just to better understand what kind of maybe false alerts and different things. And so they'll ride along with a loader operator or a haul truck driver for a couple hours, driving around in circles. But it's still for a first timer, it's definitely interesting. And I think for me, it's just getting people excited about technology, getting them engaged, and actually seeing the creativity that's come out of some of the work that we've done has been pretty impressive. So.
Nice. No, and I think that is like I know we've worked together quite a bit, Jeff, in terms of filling some co-ops for your team, and that's the part that really seems to catch people's attention. It's those couple combinations of wow, you get to work on some pretty unique pieces of equipment that you likely haven't had exposure to, and you actually get to see what you're working on and see it how it performs in real life scenario, which I think makes it so interesting. And then there's that creativity piece where we're not set in stone how we're going to do things. There's certain structure to it, but there's a little bit of give in terms of the type of work they can do and the type of projects they can take on. And I find that's something that's really appealing to students. That makes it really interesting.
I just want to add one thing too, because I think one of the reasons I came to tech originally was really based on the fact that we actually do something real here. And I know in technology, that's maybe I should be careful what I say, but I think I worked in biotech. I worked in a whole bunch of other industries in the past. And when I actually came here and started working for a mining organization, I actually see the impact of what I do at the end of the day,
Mm,
which is very different than a lot of other fields. I shouldn't say fields, but organizations that you might work for.
yeah.
So that really brought me to tech, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the impact it makes a difference. At this day and age too, I think people really are aware of they want to do something that they feel like has made an impact. And when you talk about the safety systems or rolling out technology to improve safety and productivity, like the impact is real and you get to see that, that path to value of the technologies that we're rolling out. And yeah, I think there's definitely lots of impact there that we're having on the business. They always say that tech is like the perfect size to do this kind of technology rollout, right? It's not too big, it's not too small. It's just like a nice size where we can really feel that impact in a shorter term, which is yeah, it's pretty interesting. Cool. Okay, so David, I guess given you've been here for a little while and you're looking at what you're working on and what then, I'm sure you've got a little visibility about down the road what the plan is. I guess what gets you excited about the next few years of your career with tech? Is there something that you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this happen or see this roll out? Is there anything that sort of gets you excited?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like it tied up into my previous comments about the flexibility within the company here. So, especially under Ray's team, technology and innovation, we have a lot of great digital tools are on our pipeline right now. And last year we just went through a massive migration on the apps from different environment to a more reliable and sustainable environment. And
Okay.
already some of the strategy planning team already come to site, discuss with some of the priorities with the site leadership to make sure we are aligned on some of the specific tasks we're going to do in the next couple of years. I guess for the mining domain, the real thing is what we call supervisor or dispatcher app. That's the product we want to roll it out in the past several years, but due to some of the competing priorities or some of the resources capacities, we kind of like intentionally put it on hold. But during those period of time at site, we pretty actively working with the site people to really develop what we call MVP. So it's kind of like an interim solution, really use some of the tools that the site people has already familiarized, like Power BI, like Power App, to really make them start to familiarize or starts to feel comfortable about those digital tools. And when they feel more confident about it and start to use more in a daily basis, then will be the good time to really roll out the digital tools with some of the big data, with some of the AI interface involved. So I would say it's pretty interesting and pretty exciting to see that learning curve gone through at site level, and also by observing physically to see the change at site level, to see people start to embrace more and more into the data from the beginning. When they see those fancy dashboards, they're gonna take a straight no as the answer. So yeah, that's the really rewarding and exciting part of the things from my side here.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I love to hear that. And I got a couple things I'll circle back on for sure, but I want to make sure Jeff talks a little bit about that. I guess for you, Jeff, in your space, is there anything that you're particularly excited about, a sort of a direction that we're going in, or maybe like a technology that we're working on that's going to be the next best thing?
Always the next best thing. There's a couple cool technologies out in the distance. One of them that my groups can be working on is a new pantograph system. It's really basically trolleys. Think trolleys, wires up overhead, and we're going to be plugging these into our trucks and driving them up by pure electricity and shutting off the diesel engines. So I think that's just part of the larger decarbonization program that Teck is initiated and is going to be progressing over the next few years. I'm not directly involved in that program. I'm just really projects that come out of that is really what my team winds up doing at the end of the day. We support the technology behind that. We might do some software development with those, but usually those are done by the larger groups. But you definitely get your hands dirty out there and see how this technology works. I think another area in the next years, and it's come off of some really good work actually our last few co-ops did for us. We developed out a what we called the NARC, or I should say what they called the NARC. I really have troubles with the actual acronym. It starts with nodal, and then after that I kind of lost track of what that but they were very keen on it. So, but in the end, it was really we brought in a new computer fleet into our heavy equipment, and we were having basically troubles with these computers blowing up. We'd be sending them back to the manufacturer with a bunch of stuff fried in them, and we really didn't have a good idea of why this was happening. And it was on all trucks; it was few. And in the end, we were getting some information back that looked like it was over voltage that was hitting these things, but we had no way of understanding when that was occurring or ultimately why that was occurring. We had some suggestions that were put to us from people at site, but it wasn't. We really wanted to nail it down to timing, and so what we asked our co-ops to do, and that was with the guidance of a couple people in the team, is develop a voltage monitoring system. So they actually designed out the circuit boards, built the circuit boards. We had these manufactured recently, so we're going to be deploying these out to equipment. And then actually they spent 2 to 3 months actually developing the software around that, so that we're recording the data and then we're pushing this up into some of our telemetry data systems here within the organization to start looking at. It's just in the proof of concept phase right now, but it's something that we're continuing to work on. Our next set of co-ops that are coming into the group are going to be working on the continuing down the coding effort. So it's been interesting this way. We had an electrical engineer in the last co-op, as well as someone a little more computer sciencey. So we really try to take the strengths of the co-ops, find some interesting projects, and then get them to work on it. So there's lots of crappy work that goes along with that, as I hope everyone that would expect. But I think we do try to make it interesting, so that there is value there, and that they enjoy their time with us.
Yeah. No, and honestly, oh, sorry. Yeah, Annie, go ahead.
No. Oh, no, I was just going to jump in with a question just while we're talking about co-ops and what they get out of it. And so I was just curious for you, Jeff, what you feel makes a successful co-op, like those really high performers that you've had in your group. What makes them stand apart?
As in the individual, I guess.
Yeah, or just as a whole, like what do you hope your co-ops will be?
I think at the end of the day, just eager. They come in, they're really interested in learning, and they're I think the co-ops that wind up spending way more hours than we have during the day, they take their coding home and they start coding in the evenings and doing all this other stuff just because they're excited about what they're doing. So really, that engagement it's not always easy all the time, I think. So it's not for everyone's cup of tea, but I think we have had some very strong co-ops in the last, I guess, 2 years that have really have enjoyed it. And I've hired one. I just hired one here at the beginning of the year, or beginning of 2022. That was a co-op in the past, and so I think it's led to some really good opportunities for us, as well as co-ops that are coming through the program. So
that makes us very happy, Jeff. You know,
yes.
We love to hear that. That's music to mine and Annie's ears.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise, right, of the co-op program for us, is really building that talent pool for future opportunities and giving them experience to be like, hey, this is what it's like. This is how exciting it is to work at a company like this. And then they drink the Kool-Aid, and then we got them, right? So that's great to hear that they're coming back for more, for sure. And honestly, the feedback, we do surveys with all of our co-ops after they're done, and just to make sure they got the experience that they were anticipating, they felt like it was valuable. And boy, I have to say, like, I can talk about till I'm blue in the face, but we're getting that feedback from the students that they're enjoying their terms. They're getting really a lot of responsibility and a lot of valuable learnings coming out of their co-op, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is making sure we're providing valuable experience. And they're certainly happy coming out of your group, so I can definitely attest to that.
So we have a question here from Mario, and so Mario's a mechanical engineer, but he's really interested in computer engineering specifically, and specifically in the RACE project. So he mentioned, even though I'm not a computer engineer, I would love to be part of this project. For non-computer science students, what can we do to become a good candidate for these types of positions?
It sounds like a good question for David. I think coming from a mining background, maybe that's would you mind talking to that a little bit, David? You're not coming from a traditional.
Sure. Yeah, because like by looking at the questions, like, it's pretty relatable to me, because I'm a mining engineer and then ended up into RACE. So I would say, again, tie back to that flexibility part. So like if you're working on the RACE department, it's not only like you're gonna write the code, or you're gonna stand or sit in front of a desk all day long, just staring at the screen, writing out codes. There's still a lot of process within the project or like a software development scope. It needs planning, it needs like engagement, it needs change of management, it needs come to site really doing the performance conversation. So there's a lot of opportunities here. Because use me as example, since I joined team in last summer, June 2022, I was dispatched to Line Creek operations, so one of the coal mine in the valley. So I'm more working as a CI, on-site CI specialist role. to really meeting with the stakeholders every day to really understand what are their readiness for those products, what are their current understanding, and to start to use some of the tools they know how to use to really building up the foundation, really planting the seed. And right now, actually, just this week, I'm spending my week here in Vancouver working with a Power App Vancouver team to really frame out some of the work that site people requested to really make sure that that tool is easy to understand, easy to use for them to really drive up the value. So even though I can barely coding, once every time I look the code, my brain just stop to work. But definitely there's a lot of opportunity to chime in there along the entire process. Either way, you want to focus on the back office side a little bit more, or you want to have more interaction with the site people. TAG is the company that offers all those type of opportunities.
Yeah, that's great, David. No, and for sure, and on the mechanical front too, I know in the co-op space, we've hired lots of mechanical engineers that have a a strong technical background in like there's so much big data coming out of the maintenance side of things. And so there's a lot of initiatives within our maintenance strategy group. And so it might not be necessarily race, but we're implementing technologies in all kinds of areas. And so yeah, there's lots of opportunity there within the maintenance space in particular. There's tons of projects happening. Maintenance is our biggest spend across the company, or one of the biggest spends anyway. So there's opportunity to make some big impact. And if you have that background with those two areas, yeah, lots of great projects to work on.
So another question here. So just asking, does anyone have experience with GitHub Copilot or similar technology? And how does the future of software engineering impacted by evolving technology? Who wants to take that
Jeff,
one?
you want to tackle that one?
I don't know.
You're like, don't ask me, don't ask me.
No. I think, yeah, because most of that's done by people with my team. But I think maybe some of the comments I can just make around that is just I think we are more and more trying to adhere to good software development practices. So about when we're developing code, we're as we iterate through that, we're making sure we're saving that we use TFS, which is an older Microsoft one. But I think GitHub definitely. I think we're talking about the same things, similar things at least. But getting into those places where we are once again getting into good code review, good practice, and ultimately we need that as an organization so that when that co-op leaves, we can then read their code, understand their code, and then iterate on that for the next co-op or the next software developer that might have to come onto that code. Hopefully that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and maybe along that same vein, and something that I wanted to touch for both of you guys is that you've both mentioned different technologies. I guess, is there anything in particular, like if you were going to give advice to a new co-op or a new graduate that wanted to get on with tech, is there anything in particular they really should be knowing for each individual team? And maybe, like, I know David, you talked about Power BI and you mentioned AI there, which I know is a real hot topic. Lots of students are expressing a lot of interest in potentially AI projects. But I guess, is there anything in particular they really should be knowledgeable in, or is it sort of a general scope? Maybe I'll start with you, David, then I'll pass it over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, for sure. Like if we're gonna talk about some of the fancy stuff, definitely AI, big data is the hot topics around the world now. And yeah, in Ray's team, there are a lot of data scientists really doing a pretty fantastic job trying to scope those out, trying to integrate it into every single digital tool we're trying to apply. But going down to more specific tools like Power BI, Power App, those are the pretty handy and powerful tool for the site people to use. Because as I just mentioned, to build as an MVP, the most valuable product as an interim solution. Right now, the site resources, they're ready. They're feeling comfortable. Using those type of products is pretty straightforward. People here like the visualization. And once you present those graphs, once you presented those number with a little bit simple conditional formatting, that will really change the world for them. So you can create a lot of bunch of fancy things at the background, but if the on-site resources doesn't really use it, doesn't really embrace it, the impact is limited. So I would say both ends, it definitely has a lot of rooms to improve and to work on there.
Okay, that's awesome. And Jeff, you talked about coding. So is there any particular language that you guys are working in that people should be knowledgeable in? Can you tell us a little bit about what you would recommend?
Yeah, C++ is pretty much what we write in. So
Okay.
that's it. But I think to just to talk a bit about what David was talking about, I think the data at Tech is king, really, and that's what we're going after. And there's a lot of good data science that's going on. I don't know how much of it's AI at this point. I know AI gets bandied about. I always question, is it truly AI or just people writing some really good code out there to really make some good decisions for the organization or organizations, operators? And I think for me, that David, I think the area you work at, you really work and focus your work on the back office folks, engineers, and all those at sites. And I think the difference for me is we actually are more in front of the operators. We develop interfaces, they provide data to the operators that come down from different work that the data sciences folks are doing here within the organizations. Like one in specifics, which is called Smart Loader. It actually goes on our loaders, and it takes ash analyzer data that comes off of the belts that go into our plants, basically combines a bunch of other information, which I'll leave it to the data scientists to explain. And then we take that and other information from a few other systems, and then we, through software we've developed, is bring that all together and then push that down onto the loaders so that the operator actually can make good decisions on where to be pulling the next bucket of coal from to dump into the hoppers. So yeah, and we use C++ to do all that.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, and you've answered pretty much one of the questions that are in here, and they asked a little bit about the data science team. So yes, we do have that, and they talked about machine learning, and I think too, when we talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm obviously picking my way through this stuff, but when we talk about that data is king here, it really is. But it's also getting reliable data and making sure before we move to that machine learning stage. I know there are some groups that are moved towards the machine learning side of things. A lot of it is making sure that data is reliable so that we can accurately, I guess, machine learning is useful for us. Is that accurate to say, I guess, in terms of where we're at right now, machine learning?
I don't have a comment on
that. David, how about, I know there's I think about some of the maintenance groups that I've worked with where some of them have advanced to the machine learning stage, but some of them are like, oh, let's not rush into that. Like, I know it's a nice shiny tool to talk about, but like there's certain groups that are there, but other data we're not quite ready to use machine learning on. Is that accurate for you, David, or are you familiar with that?
Well, I would say the technology definitely is available and it's out there for us to use. But meanwhile, the data integrity and the accuracy is also a big part for us to consider, right? Because you can have the machine learning model to really start to analyze all those kind of data, but if we do not maintain a good standard of data input, like the output of the model not gonna achieve what we want to achieve, right? So definitely the technology is amazing and it's doing a fantastic job. But meanwhile, some of the focus also need to put on the, like, I would say, the input side to really make sure the users who entering those data or the system who actually collecting those data follow the right and standardized procedural costs. At the site level, we do have different crews, and maybe each crew, they have different habit, different thing to enter the data or how to like interpret the data. So really make sure to focus for people to manage it and to focus it is the key, I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that. Thanks for answering that. All right. So yeah, Annie, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we've got another question here, and so wondering if Tech follows the agile development model, and if so, how are the software architectural design processes? Like, how do they look? What do they look like, and later on evaluated?
If I saw your smile, I feel like you want to answer this one.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I think for my team, we are really at the cusp of getting into agile. I think as an organization, Agile is really becoming embedded into how we operate. In a support side, which is half of my business, it's an interesting kind of to try to fit Agile framework into a support environment. Not exactly clear, but especially on our software development side, we are more and more trying to do that. But I don't know. I think you definitely see that more in our Vancouver operations, and I don't know, David, if you can speak to that at all.
Yeah, I guess definitely that word sounds pretty familiar to me, 'cause even though I'm based on site, but yeah, every time I hop into one of the meeting hold back at Vancouver, definitely that's the big hot topics they're talking about. And without Agile, I mean, before Agile, we kind of do the similar thing already at site and at other like operations as well. So it's really more like a strategic way to plan and to develop the software from the beginning to the end. So I would say in general, definitely there's a lot of room, and we do have an agile team, basically for every single digital team in Ray's department here. So
one thing I might add though to that is, like, if co-ops are coming out and interested in working for tech, really understanding that agile framework, how it works, and having knowledge around it could really help whatever group you come into, especially it could be software development or it could be other spaces within the organization. But agile, especially in the broader TDS groups, is really becoming a critical component of how we get our work organized and done at the end of the day.
Great. Does tech have a DevOps team? Is another question.
We use DevOps. I mean, so I think there's lots of development that, like, I guess it's the definition of DevOps ultimately. What would be the reference? But we do a lot of in-house development in this organization. I think Race 21 is a key developer of a lot of that work. There's other groups that are doing it around the organization as well, including my team. But Race 21 is doing a huge amount, especially over the last couple of years, of a very novel and very impactful development work.
David, do you want to comment that, or does that cover it for you too?
that's good. That's pretty much covered what exactly I want to say. So
Awesome, that's great.
Right.
I'm just double checking.
We did have a
any
couple
other
questions. Yeah,
Okay.
we just had a couple questions just to kind of about the recruitment process. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I know someone's asked you about the interview process and what's it like for a software developer co-op. So it can vary depending where you're going. Ray's team does, so I think there is a little bit of testing that they would do prior to, especially from a developer side of things, just to get an understanding of where your skill set is. I know for some of the other more operational and support roles, we do more of a similar process we do for a lot of our engineering roles, where we would do potentially a quick video pre-screen video, a recorded video of a person asking some questions and answering some questions for us, and then we would do a in-person interview with a recruiter, and then we would push it over to a technical interview with a hiring manager and a recruiter. So it's a bit of a staged process, and both, I think all of our interview process sort of follows something similar to that. So that is, because especially with someone like Jeff's team, where a big chunk of your time could be support. It's making sure that it's a fit in terms of what they're looking for, in terms of they have the communication skills and the ability to work with various teams. They're interested in a role that's more hands-on at the operational level, and we can vet that at the start. And then obviously when someone like Jeff joins the call, or someone from his team, they can really dive into a little bit about how much exposure you have in certain areas in the technical front. The big thing with us, again, similar to what Jeff had talked about in terms of the successful students he's had, it's really, a lot of it is that motivation, that drive, that willingness to learn. A lot of stuff we can train, assuming you have a certain level of technical knowledge. A lot of it is in-house or on-the-job training for sure, but assuming you meet that certain level of experience and knowledge. So that's sort of the process anyway there. It's a bit of a stage process, but yeah, certainly I always tell people, and I guess that's something to think about, Annie or I are likely the first person that's going to look at your resume. And certainly we work closely with our hiring managers like David and Jeff to make sure we have a good knowledge of the role, but make sure that your resume and your application are clear and concise, but make it really clear for someone who maybe like myself and Annie who aren't professionals in the technical space. And yeah, we get used to hiring people in that world and we know what phrases to look for and different things to look for, but make sure it's clear for someone who may be non-technical, because that might be the first person looking at your resume. And I always use that advice for people to really think that through when they're applying for jobs. It's not always the technical expert that's looking at your resume. So make sure it's really clear in terms of your skill set and highlight those keywords that have maybe been highlighted in the job posting. Well, little tidbit.
And we're currently recruiting for May, but if you don't see something that's maybe suited for what you're looking for posted now, we do hire January, May, and September. And so in May, we will be recruiting again for September. So you can, I put the link on there, but you can go to the website. You can put alerts on. And so if you don't see what you're looking for, you can put an alert and you'll be notified if anything gets posted. For new grad opportunities, if that's what you're looking for, we don't, we post them on an as needed basis as positions become available. So there's not like one hiring time each year, and so it's so put those alerts on, and we're a pretty awesome place to work, so apply when you can.
Yeah, and some of the roles might have not your traditional names either. Like it's not going to just always be a computer engineer or software developer. It might have, like we have our different roles like product deployment specialist or product owners and lots of different names. So yeah, some of them are very specific to the technology world. Some of them might be very mining specific, and people are like, what? That's not what I normally, you hear things like asset health and people are like, what is this role? Like, so there's some unique ones that are unique to mining. So I would say do your homework on the website, set yourself up for job alerts. If it's asking for a certain discipline, then you'll be pinged for that once that role is posted. So yeah, sometimes it's good to look through a bit of the postings and really just look at what kind of requirements you're looking for and find one that's most suited for you. Great. I don't know if any other questions popped up, Annie, that did you notice any that might be on
I don't think so. I think we've covered them, but if anyone has a last minute question, if you want to raise your hand or type it in there,
yeah, awesome.
Feel free.
And in the meantime, yeah, I was gonna say, in the meantime, we can just talk a little bit about the recruitment side of things. So I know Annie had mentioned a little bit about the timelines. We are currently recruiting for May. We have quite a few positions across the business. I would say it's about 100 now that we're looking at across the business in various areas. So basically any engineering discipline you could think of, including computer engineers and computer scientists as well. We may have some more roles coming down the line over the next little bit. We're still waiting for some approvals on some of the technology roles actually. So once that comes through, you may see some more. So I would say keep an eye on the website over the next few weeks to see if there's an additional ones coming through. Yeah, but that otherwise, again, every term we're hiring. So without a doubt, we've always had a strong co-op program. And like I mentioned, we put a lot of value into those students, and they get a lot of responsibility and some really interesting and challenging projects, which makes it pretty fun to come to work every day. There's one question just popped up. If a group is demonstrating an AI-based capstone project, what would you look for in there? Oh, that might be broad. Maybe David, I know you talked a little AI, so I'm gonna saddle you with this one.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, it's a broad one. Basically, anything that can solve our problem or our headaches, definitely will be interested to look for. But speaking to AI, definitely one of the areas within our fleet management system. So right now, the current FMS or fleet management system still requires a lot of like human input, lots of human considerations to really make the system perform pretty well. But there's some points we can actually use AI to, for example, first have the live alert system when some of the indicators or some of the KPIs are not trending in the right direction. It will pops up to the dispatcher to really inform them at the first place where it's going wrong. And the next step is, even before it happened, by looking at some of the historical data and by analyze some of the historical trend to provide like short-term, medium-term, or even long-term notice to the operators, to the supervisors to really help them plan, have the backup plan in advance. I think that would be a pretty good area to focus on.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah, and we have sponsored. I know the same Jesse was just also mentioning wanted to become a sponsor for their software engineering capstone course. We have done that at times, and sometimes when it's a former co-op, or we'll give them a project to work on for their capstone, and we've sponsored and given them some ideas and things to work on. Yeah, I mean, Jesse, feel free to email us. If you're still looking, I'm not sure with time wise, but we could certainly ask around. I can't guarantee anything. We obviously, it would require a little bit of work on some of the hiring managers to be able to support something through to fruition. But certainly you can email us. It's campus.recruitment@tech.com, and so then that's a sort of a general email that you can certainly email to at least start the conversation. Yeah, awesome. Those capstone projects are fun, and we've got some really good stuff that came out of those over the last few years. We've had some really neat projects come through that have helped us with a few of our initiatives at a few different schools. So yeah, it's been great. Awesome. I think we've got them all. Hey, anything else I'm missing there? Yeah.
No, I think we've got it covered. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much to Jeff and David for taking the time, offering your insights and giving us advice and all fun stuff that people can take away and work on. So we certainly appreciate you taking the time. We definitely appreciate everybody who's joined us tonight and listened to us banter on, and hopefully it was something valuable for everybody. Yeah, I think we'll call it wrap this up, Sally. We made it through. We had 6 sessions that we did over the past 3 weeks. They've all been recorded, so you can find them on the student landing page over the coming weeks and months. We basically have to edit them through so that that they make sense for people, and then we'll put them on the website so you can go back and look at sessions that we've done in the past. And if you're looking if your friends weren't able to catch the one tonight, or other ones that you were maybe missed along the way, and then we'll hope to do another session in May. We may do a small group, and then back in September again, likely do some more of these sort of discipline specific sessions for students to get some valuable information from. We'll call it. All right, team. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Great evening.
Take care.